ACSportstips.com. We're breaking down the Week 2 matchup between the Georgia Bulldogs and the Missouri Tigers down in Columbia, Missouri. Keep an eye out. This is Missouri's first SEC game since leaving the Big 12 last year. We expect head coach Gary Pinkel to have his troops ready. We expect the fans to be in the game and look for a crazy atmosphere. 7:45 p.m. It's a nationally televised game on ESPN2. We're going to give our prediction for this game a little bit later in the week. We're just going to break down some news and notes for both teams right now. Let's start with Georgia. Georgia traditionally does not leave the SEC conference on long road trips. We know this is an SEC game. However, Georgia doesn't leave about a 400-mile radius on their away games. Every game is at South Carolina, Tennessee, LSU, all within about 400 miles. When you're talking about the Missouri Tigers, their distance is about an 820-mile road trip. Georgia, back in 2008, traveled to Arizona State. They did win that game. The following year, they started the season in Oklahoma, in Stillwater, Oklahoma State. With Joe Cox as quarterback, they lost that game. So traditionally, that's just something that you get to keep in your eye on if you're the Bulldog faithful looking at this game. Traditionally, Georgia doesn't make long road trips. So how will that affect the Bulldogs? We'll just have to wait and see, and our prediction will be a little bit later in the week. If your offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo, I think that you want to get Aaron Murray involved in this game early. Look for an up-tempo game. Look for them to pass first and run later. Last week, versus Buffalo, Murray struggled a little bit early. He missed some long throws to DeVaris King, and I think that if you're head coach Mark Richt and Mike Bobo, you want to get Murray involved in this game early. I think you're going to look to see the Bulldogs pass first, build an early lead, and then use that running game with both freshmen, Todd Gurley, freshman, All-SEC freshman of the week, and Keith Marshall to get involved in the running game. You have to remember, both backs are freshmen. They might be a little raw and picking up blitz pickups in the passing game, so I think that will take the pressure off of them. Once they build a lead, look for that massive offensive line. They're young, but they have a distinct weight advantage over the defensive line for Missouri. Georgia's offensive line averages about 23 pounds heavier than the front line of Missouri. If it's one thing that these conferences outside the SEC proved, they haven't been able to match to date the physicality in the offense and defensive line. So that's something I think that you'll see Georgia want to test. Missouri's only removed from the Big 12 last year. Big 12 defenses last year played in a pass-happy league. They were horrible in run defense. Every game was 52-49. So I think you're going to see Georgia in that type of game plan. If they get the lead, they're going to want to use that big, heavy offensive line and wear down the Tigers. Defensively for Georgia, a couple of key notes. Secondary, they missed about 3 starters last week. Bakari Rambo didn't play in 2 other starters, so keep your eye on that. How are they going to fare in the pass-happy Big 12 type of passing game, the spread defense? I look for Georgia to use Jarvis Jones on run blitzes and force, Missouri's hand a little bit in forcing quarterback James Franklin of Missouri, to make poor decisions. So look for Jarvis Jones to be used on run blitzes and different types of looks, so that way it could force Missouri's hand. If you're the Missouri Tigers, you want to get into a high-scoring game. This is what the Big 12 teams try and do. They do not want a ball control type of game in which, it's a 10-7 or a 17-14 type of game. Traditionally, Big 12 teams have not fared very well in these type of games. Their type of game is an up-tempo, fast-break type of offense, 52-49. That's what you're looking for. So look for Pinkel to come out, spread the defense, use Kendall Lawrence, the starting running back for Missouri, on zone reads, and then hopefully, if they get the lead, just keep the throttle on Georgia. Whether that happens or not, we'll have our breakdown a little bit later. That's something that you have to keep your eye on. Defensively for Missouri, it's a two-headed beast for Georgia, really, because if Murray gets involved, in our opinion, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. He's only a junior. He started as a true freshman after Matthew Stafford left for the NFL. He's had 2 years under his belt, and if it's one thing that Mark Richt proved, he knows how to develop quarterbacks. So if Aaron Murray gets hot, that could be disaster for the Missouri Tigers. On the other hand, they've proved right now, Georgia, that they have two backs that they can count on. Georgia hasn't had a running game, a running back that they can count on since no Sean Marino left. After that, it was Rashawn Ely. He was kicked off the team, and then Isaiah Crowell this year was kicked off the team as well. We got to remember, since it's a long time since no Sean Marino, going on almost 4 years, and my personal favorite, Robert Edwards. You can see him back there, my all-time favorite running back of all time, Robert Edwards. But that's what Missouri, I mean, it's a potion. I think you want to try and get out to an early lead, keep the throttle on Georgia. It's going to be a tough task because, like we said, the physicality of the SEC is unlike any other conference. So there's been a lot of chalkboard material right now. A couple of the linebackers stepping up from Missouri and saying Georgia's not that tough. Well, we're going to have to see. If you're head coach Gary Pinkel, you want to feed off the crowd right now. They're going to be crazy in Columbia. This is their first SEC game. They're going to want to prove that they belong in this conference. So look, it's a 7:45 start on ESPN2. So that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Does the crowd inspire Missouri? And can Georgia prove that they are a contender, a top 6 team? Georgia has talent year in and year out. They've struggled in recent years, but you have to remember, Mark Richt had a very young team the last couple of years. He has a senior secondary now, a senior type of defense, and that's something that he's hanging his hat on. He developed now 2 key backs. Keith Marshall and Todd Gurley proved last week that they can carry the rock, and that gives an added dimension and takes the pressure off of Aaron Murray. But I still think that offensive coordinator Mike Bobo is going to try and jump out early. He's going to want to get Aaron Murray into a rhythm early, and I look for them to pass first, and then that'll open up the running game. I don't look at last week very much in terms of Georgia struggling last week against Buffalo. We said it before in a future video that we don't feel that that was Georgia's best effort. We felt that Mark Richt held back a little bit vanilla with the game plan. So I think this week you'll see an inspired effort from the Bulldogs on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. For Missouri, you're going to want your quarterback, James Franklin, to be all over the place. You want them to spread the ball around. If they're a little weak, Missouri, it's on the wide receiver front. T.J. Moe is their senior wide receiver. After that, there's a drop-off, so look for a lot of the pressure to fall on Franklin and Kendall Lawrence in terms of the running game. So we have to see how that develops a little bit later in the week. But stay with us. We're going to have a breakdown, a prediction for this game in a couple of days. We wrote about a breakdown. We have a written breakdown of the Georgia-Missouri game on our site, www.acsportstips.com. It's going to be a great season. I can't wait to see how this game plays out. So stay with us all season long, and we'll see you a little bit later in the week.